As a kid, I, like everyone else, wanted to have a Pokemon like Pikachu, but of course that's impossible. Luckily, you can become a Pokemon trainer in Minecraft thanks to a mod that brings these Pokemon to life. To make this adventure as a magical creature trainer more exciting, I'm taking on a challenge: surviving 100 days in a blocky world with Pokemon on hardcore difficulty. This means I only have one life, and if I die, it's game over. But since the Pixelmon mod replaces all passive and hostile creatures with Pokemon, this challenge might end only because of a silly mistake, like falling to my death. So I decided to make survival a bit harder. The mod that adds Pokemon to the game changes villages and includes lots of chests with items that a regular player could just take and stop worrying about many things. However, I'm banning myself from taking items from villages. I can collect resources from chests in abandoned structures or in places where all Pokemon trainers are hostile. In short, I'm not allowed to steal from peaceful villagers. On top of that, I installed a map mod to see all nearby Pokemon, navigate the terrain and world, and set waypoints for important locations. This mod also allows teleporting to waypoints, but I won't be using that feature. I'm not setting any specific goals for these 100 days. I just want to explore the world, catch different Pokemon to see their evolutions and battle abilities. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time on this mod, but I played Minecraft version 1.7.10. So now there's way more content in the game, including new Pokemon that I want to find and catch. I think that wraps up the introduction. Let's start surviving, and I encourage you to subscribe and leave a comment about which games and challenges you'd like to see on this channel. Day 1 starts with choosing my starter Pokemon, and to keep things simple, I decided to go with the classic choice, Charmander. I spawned in a village in a snowy biome, which I need to leave quickly because I hate winter. Right away, came across lots of chests with valuable resources, but as I mentioned, I can't take anything from them. Entered my first battle with an enemy and won without any issues, leveling up Charmander a few times in the process. Wasn't lucky with this village. There's no Poke Center here where I could heal my Pokemon. Plus, I urgently needed to gather more food. Found a shop with vendors where I could sell various items added by the Pixelmon mod, as well as buy useful resources and even Poke Balls. Gathered my first wood and crafted a workbench. Then I started doing the usual Minecraft tasks, collecting cobblestone, making stone tools, and mining some coal. As I was running around the village, I unexpectedly received a bed. As a reward for visiting the village, even though I'd been running around it for 7 minutes. On the ground, I found a regular Poke Ball, and when I clicked on it, I ended up getting a friend ball, made a campfire, and cooked some meat to satisfy my hunger. Along the way, I was suddenly attacked by an aggressive Zigzagoon, which ended up defeating my dragon. Found a new village and spotted some kind of blue pillar. Then I noticed that Zigzagoon was still following me and wouldn't leave me alone. Ran closer to the pillar, which turned out to be a Pokestop that I could activate once every 24 hours to receive various items. There were also barrels with resources nearby, but I didn't take anything from them either, since they still technically belong to someone, even if there's no one around. I encountered an epic boss, Mawila, but I'm too weak to do anything against her yet. In the village, I finally found a Poke Center where I could heal my Pokemon. Right after that, the same Zigzagoon attacked me again, but this time I managed to defeat it without any trouble. On the second day, I found a guy who gave me a quest to defeat 30 Dragon-type Pokemon, discovered another Pokestop, gathered some black apricorns to eventually craft a few Ultra Balls. After another battle and leveling up, Charmander learned a new Dragon-type move. There was nothing else to do in this village, and I needed to leave the snowy area quickly, so I set off to look for new adventures. Found an interesting icy structure. There was some kind of altar here, which looked like an altar for summoning the legendary Pokemon Articuno, although it looked different in previous mod versions. There was also a level 55 Pokemon trainer whom I obviously wasn't going to fight. Found a pillager tower, but of course there were no pillagers here. There was, however, a chest with some modest resources at the top. Finally, I found green grass and trees, meaning I was leaving the snowy biome behind. It was raining unpleasantly here, so I decided to sleep to skip the storm and start a new day. At the start of day 3, after waking up, I noticed that my Pokemon had healed. Turns out sleep is beneficial not just for me, but also for my companions. Found a new, beautiful village near the mountains. Decided to fight a cow for leather, but lost the battle. While I was running to heal Charmander, a message unexpectedly popped up in the chat that a legendary Pokemon, Entei, had spawned somewhere in the mountains. Thanks to the map, I quickly located him. He was level 70, so I had no chance of catching him, but just for fun, fun, I threw a Pokeball at him and, of course, didn't catch him as expected. Decided to use a blue crystal on Charmander, which gave him several hundred experience points, ultimately leveling him up and triggering his evolution. Now we've got a new buddy, Charmeleon. Each village has a gym, some even with multiple gyms where 3 high-level trainers are stationed. I'd love to see what happens if you beat them, but I'm not ready for that just yet, since I don't have the resources needed to build a big house with healing tables and other important items. I decided to build a small house near the village and started clearing an area for it. The house will be fairly small as I plan to move out of here quickly. While building, another legendary Pokemon spawned. This time it was Tinglu, which looked like some kind of bison, but of course I can't catch him either. By the end of the 3rd day, the house's framework was complete. I set up a campfire in front of the house to cook some food, decided to train Charmeleon a bit by defeating all the grass-type Pokemon in the forest, placed a chest in the house, and stored all my unnecessary items. Found an interesting Pokemon, Hatena, which has 3 stages of evolution, meaning it could evolve 2 more times, so I decided to catch it, and now I have 2 Pokemon in the meantime. I leveled up Charmeleon to level 20, just 16 more levels, and he'll evolve into Charizard. I got tired of running in circles around the house, so I decided to go on an adventure. But before I could go far, my dragon had already taken a lot of damage and had almost no health left. I decided not to turn back and looked for a village along the way. Found yellow apricorns for future Ultra Balls. Came across an interesting Pokemon, Jangmo-o, and tried to catch it, but I misjudged my strength and accidentally defeated it. Then, just a minute later, I encountered another Pokemon named Nocli. I checked its evolutions, and it's going to look really cool in the future. Even though it's not rare, I decided to catch it. Next, in the forest, I found a very cute Pokemon, but I didn't want to catch it since it only evolves once and into a less cute form than it has now. A high-level Ariados attacked me, and I tried to escape. I managed to get away, but 2 of my 3 teammates were knocked out. Found a ruined nether portal with a chest, but there was nothing interesting in it. In the mountains, I stumbled upon a large structure and some ruined buildings. It was a gym with a boss and strong Pokemon trainers. In the ruined buildings, there were barrels and chests, and by my rules, I could take items from them because everyone here was an enemy. Collected a set of armor from the Pixelmon mod, along with a bunch of interesting items that I could sell later. Before leaving this gloomy place, I accidentally found a flooded basement under one of the houses, and in a chest, there was a skeleton head. Returned home and went straight to sell all the items. I ended up with a decent amount of money, which I planned to spend on Ultra Balls. Decided to set off on another journey, but this time in a different direction. Found another Pokestop, but there was nothing interesting there. Encountered a blue boss, Zubat. Ahead, I spotted a village and a large castle, so I headed in that direction. As soon as I approached the castle, a boss immediately attacked me and knocked out all my Pokemon in one hit. This was a beautiful location with various Pokemon trainer bosses, equal, epic, and even legendary ones. Aside from the stunning architecture, there wasn't much else here. The village itself had very beautiful buildings, including a shop where I immediately bought 15 Ultra Balls. There was also an altar with Pokemon statues. A bit later, I found the Pokemon Center, which looked amazing as well. I challenged a level 22 Pokemon trainer and won since he only had 1 Pokemon, continued searching for adventures, and saw an interesting building in the distance. It was beautiful, but the chest was empty, and I didn't want to steal the enchanting table. There was nothing interesting in the Pillager Tower. Decided to defeat a few Miltanks for leather to make boots and backpacks. I used a different Pokemon to fight them, since Charmeleon was taking too much damage from these cows. After the battle, Nocli leveled up and evolved into Knucklestack. Now he looks even funnier and more interesting. The next Miltank, level 15, wiped out my entire team, which was pretty frustrating. Saw a purple beacon on a mountain, but there was no point going there since all my Pokemon were fainted and it was a raid boss. Then found another simple village and immediately ran to heal my Pokemon. Came across a starter, Pokemon Bulbasaur, but didn't want to catch it since I wasn't aiming to collect all the starter Pokemon. Approached the raid beacon. Here you could battle a boss with friends, but I chose start solo, and 3 random Pokemon with levels close to the bosses joined me. We won without any issues, and I received some items along with the option to catch this Pokemon, but I didn't feel like it. Saw a huge boss Beedrill as tall as a tree. Fought another raid boss, and we won again without problems. I didn't want to catch the Pichu either. Then came another raid boss, this time a Hatena, who was stronger than the previous bosses and took down 2 Pokemon, including my Charmeleon, but we still managed to win. Saw a dungeon with a spawner and chests, along with a large Pokemon whose level I couldn't see due to blocks above him, so I decided to attack. This was a mistake, as he was level 45, and I was lucky to escape without losses. Returned home, sold some items, and healed my Pokemon. I attacked a trainer but lost even though he was a lower level than me. The forest was a great place to train Charmeleon, as Deerling, grass-type Pokemon of high levels, often appeared here, making them easy to defeat with fire attacks. Used some experience candies to speed up my progress. After leveling up again, Charmeleon learned a new, powerful fire attack. It started raining, so I decided to sleep through the thunderstorm. Slipped while jumping along a cliff and nearly died. I gathered enough leather to make running boots, but now I needed to find feathers. I chased a bird for a long time to pluck it, but ended up with only 1 feather when I needed 2. Found a shiny Pachirisu and caught it for my collection. Shiny Pokemon are the same as regular ones, but with rare color variations, so this one isn't particularly useful to me. Found another feather and crafted the boots, which increased my speed by 50%. The game feels much better now, and I can get more done. Stored Pachirisu in the PC box, as it doesn't have evolutions, and is a weak Pokemon, so I won't be training it. Challenged a level 30 trainer at the village arena. I defeated his first Pokemon without trouble, but the second one knocked out my whole team before I could even land a hit. Encountered a Pokemon with an annoying healing ability. I couldn't beat it because it kept healing after each of my attacks, but occasionally it wouldn't heal, which helped me win. Saw an intriguing high-level Pokemon that I'd like to catch, though it likely doesn't have evolutions and is still too strong for me right now. At the end of the day 11, I finally achieved my goal. My little dragon evolved for the last time, and now we have a powerful flying Pokemon, Charizard. I can now fly and quickly explore the world to find a spot for my future home, which will be my next objective. Now I need to gather 12 leather to make a large backpack so I can take all my items with me and start searching for a spot for my future home. Leather mostly drops from small elephants in the mountains and cows, but they're hard to find. I found a Pokemon move tutor who, in exchange for various resources, can teach my Pokemon new moves. At the beginning of day 13, I gathered enough leather to craft the largest backpack, which is made from a medium backpack, and the medium one is made from a small backpack. In the end, I got a huge extra inventory. I started sorting out all the items from my chest and preparing for the move. I didn't want to live nearby, so I chose a random direction and flew off to find a suitable spot for my future home. I got distracted by a 3-star raid boss, but of course we lost. Stumbled upon a small ship with people. There were chests with resources that I couldn't take, but there wasn't much else to do there, so I just flew on. Immediately encountered a new building in the water. The entrance was underwater. It looked like a temple, and in the center was some sort of cup, but I had no idea what to do with it. Saw a huge city on the water. Besides a massive amount of chests with valuable resources and beautiful buildings, there were many interesting things, including traders, a blacksmith, and most importantly, a tower in the center that was a water gym. When I swam up the tower, one of the bosses attacked me right away, and it was clear that I wasn't ready for that yet. I climbed onto a tower and found an Ultra Ball lying on the ground. I picked it up and got a shiny stone. Having nothing else to do there, I flew off to continue searching for a base location. Attacked a 3-star raid boss and lost again, which resulted in my Charizard fainting while I was on a deserted island and couldn't fly away. Fortunately, I remembered that I could heal my Pokemon by simply sleeping in a bed. Nearby, there was another city with a water gym. It was frustrating that there wasn't a large piece of land around, just water and small islands occasionally popping up. But eventually, I found the spot I was looking for, the perfect place for a base. It was located near 3 villages, forests, and a winter biome with ice spikes. Before starting my house, flew around to see what was in the area, encountered a weak raid boss, Hoot Hoot. Of course I won, but I accidentally caught it. Now I had a useless level 25 owl. The next raid boss was a 3-star one, and I didn't believe I could defeat defeat it, especially when it knocked out 2 of my Pokemon at the start of the battle. But to my surprise, we won, and I received some decent rewards. I also tried to catch Archon, but the Pokeball broke, and I didn't get a second chance. Used a large experience candy on Knacklestack, which leveled him up several times at once. My attempts to defeat one of the trainers at the arena ended in failure again, and yet another massive boss that I couldn't defeat. Before building my house, I needed to gather a lot of different resources in caves for chests, healing stations, furnace hoppers, for automated ore smelting, and everything else that would be in the house. The most important things to find were diamonds for the healing station, and of course aluminum. So I set off to the nearest canyon to mine for ores. But first I decided to cook all the meat and craft a few iron pickaxes. There was a lot of iron, aluminum, and coal, but I couldn't find my way to diamonds in the cave yet. Found silver, which is used in crafting, but I plan to use it only for upgrading chests in the future. Encountered a Sableye and decided to defeat it because I remembered that it could drop diamonds. However, instead of a diamond, I got an emerald and some coal. Finally, I managed to dig a little deeper and found redstone dust. Then I mined platinum ore and a few pieces of firestone. Found a level 62 Aron and wanted to try to catch it, but when I lowered its health, it just fled. I decided to throw a Pokeball at it, and to my surprise, I actually caught it. Since the final evolution of this Pokemon occurs at level 42, and it's currently in its first form at level 62, I just need to level it up twice for it to become Aggron. Struggled to find diamonds for a while, but at one point, while digging in a random direction, I discovered them. There were a total of 5 diamonds, enough for both a pickaxe and a healing station. I threw a few Ultra Balls at a level 57 Knacklestack in hopes of catching it, but unfortunately it didn't work out this time. Finally, I made my way to the surface, and you can see the results of my mining expedition. I gathered a lot of iron and aluminum, probably enough to last me until the end of my survival. And of course, the most important find was the 5 diamonds. Defeated a raid boss, Slowpoke, and received a rare candy, which raises a Pokemon's level by 1. Then a legendary Pokemon Keldeo appeared. It wiped out my entire team. I barely managed to do any damage to it. I threw several Ultra Balls at it, but of course I couldn't catch it. Before building my house, I needed to gather several types of wood, collect sand for glass, and obtain other resources that might be needed for construction. But first, I needed to smelt iron ore into ingots and make some iron tools. I looked for house design ideas online and found inspiration on Pinterest, so I'll try to create something similar. Instead of oak, I plan to use spruce wood, so I need to gather 1.5 stacks of logs. I'll likely need some birch and oak as well, so I'll gather a bit of those too. While I was running around the village, Tinglu appeared. I had trouble finding it at first, but eventually it was right in the center of the village. I managed to lower its health to the red zone, but after using many Pokeballs, I still couldn't catch it, and it defeated my entire team. Threw a few more Pokeballs at it, but I still couldn't catch it. Now I need to collect a lot of sand because I will need glass, not just for the house. In the water, I spotted a fossil and mined it. Later, I'll be able to obtain an ancient Pokemon from this item. Finally reached the clearing where my future house will stand. It's somewhat like an island. Initially, I wanted to build the house in the center, but then I decided to shift it closer to the forest. Started leveling the landscape for the house's boundaries and foundation, but I was distracted by a legendary Pokemon that appeared nearby. To my surprise, Cosmog was level 15, but catching it was still a challenge. Whenever I tried to lower its health a bit, it kept teleporting away, restoring its health. Even when it used attacks instead of teleporting, my Pokeballs still couldn't catch it. Eventually, I managed to catch it. I earned an achievement for catching my first legendary Pokemon, and it's also a legendary Pokemon with 2 evolutions, but we'll tackle that after I finish building the house. Returned to leveling the landscape, and after about 10 minutes, I was finally one step closer to building my house. I saw a boss Furret and decided to try to defeat him. To my surprise, I was able to do it and received a decent reward, and my Aron leveled up and began to evolve. Decided to take a break and evolve Lyron into its final form. I used a large experience candy and found a level 30 trainer in the village. And finally, I have a quite strong Pokemon Aggron in my team. On my way home, I noticed a small mound of dirt with a passage. There lay a Master Ball that I could pick up. I received an item that allows sharing experience among all Pokemon in battle, even if they didn't participate. This mode can be toggled on and off, which is quite a useful item. Finally, I started trying to build the house. Looking at the picture on my second monitor of the house, I want to replicate. I began with the front side, since that's the only part I can see in the photo. I will need to complete the rest myself. Ran out of spruce wood, so I flew to gather a few hundred more. But on the way, I saw a raid boss. This was a 4-star boss, and I doubted I could defeat him. But in the end, I was lucky, and I received a lot of useful and useless items. Gathered a lot of wood, but of course this will not be enough, and I will soon return to this forest. Building such a house was very difficult without scaffolding and flight mode because there are many small details that are hard to replicate, especially since the photo doesn't clearly show what and where is located. By the end of day 28, I finished the front part of the house, not counting the decorations that I will add at the end. There was still a lot of work left, and I already regret starting to build such a complex house because it will leave me with much less time to explore the Pokemon world. While I was chopping birch trees for the house construction, I saw a guy with a quest for me and decided to talk to him. As those who have watched my previous videos know, I don't like reading dialogues and just skipped what he was saying, and at one point I got teleported somewhere. It was a world completely made of water, and I was scared I might die or get stuck here. I wasn't in the mood to explore other worlds right now because I wanted to finish building my house quickly, so I wanted to get out of there as fast as possible and started swimming upwards. I swam for a long time, but eventually I was teleported back to my world, only not to my house, but to the spot where I appeared at the very beginning. My house was 7,000 meters away. Since I couldn't use teleportation, I would have to fly home on my Pokemon. On the way, I encountered a raid boss and lost, and my flying Pokemon died, but I figured out I could make a bed from the wool I had and sleep, thus reviving my dragon. Nearby was a temple that I decided to check out. I collected all the dynamite here, but there was nothing useful in the chests. I met a cool Pokemon, Larvesta. It evolves into a strong and beautiful butterfly, so I decided to catch it. Maybe I'll train it someday. A minute later, a legendary Pokemon appeared near me. I quickly found it, and I had every chance to catch it. After a long time and more than a dozen Pokeballs, I caught my second legendary Pokemon. Nearby, there was a descent underground where I found a Master Ball with an item. In the town, I sold my items and bought a few Ultra Balls. On the way, I also found a tower with boss trainers that I won't be able to defeat yet. Eventually, I flew back home and continued construction. Set out to gather another batch of spruce, but I was sure that wouldn't be enough. Ran out of glass, so I went to collect sand for smelting. The legendary Cosmog appeared again, but I had no desire to catch it, and there wasn't much sense in doing so. By the end of day 33, I finished the framework of the first floor and the roof on the sides, but there was still a lot of work left to do. Back to gathering tons of spruce. A legendary boss appeared near the house, obstructing my construction. I had to knock it off as I wouldn't be able to defeat it. Sometimes I paused to battle raid bosses and received useful items. The construction was challenging, but it was starting to look more or less acceptable. Finished making the roof of the house, although it's more like a canopy since I still need to complete some things, like finishing the glass, but soon I'll be able to start on the interior. Encountered a transfer tutor, but he couldn't teach any interesting moves. I'm gathering sand again because I ran out, and once again I'm chopping trees, and I won't be here for the last time. I added some relief to the roof. Cosmog appeared again, and once more I didn't want to look for and catch it. Finally, I finished the framework of the house, and it's time to start on the interior design. Flew out to chop down the spruce forest again. Decided to make the floor out of spruce and stone bricks with rises on the sides that are 1 block higher. There were many problems with the floor on the second floor, so I didn't make it very pretty, but I didn't have time to think about the house anymore. It was time to finish it. Started placing flower pots and will plant flowers in them later. To avoid climbing up to the second floor each time by building a dirt pillar under me, I decided to start making a staircase up. Found a flower biome and gathered a lot of peonies to plant under the house, but it still won't be enough. I also collected flowers for the pots. The floor made of smooth stone bricks looks boring, so I decided to add some relief. In the end, I finally finished the interior of the house, except for the furniture, chests, and other furnishings. Began lighting up the outside of the house and started hanging lanterns in a circle. Made some changes to the ceiling, adding relief to it as well. Gathered the remaining peonies in the forest and planted them around the house, thus completely finishing the exterior of this wonderful building. Also built a sugarcane farm nearby because I'll soon need a lot of bookshelves. I'll decorate this farm later, but for now, I need to finish the house. Started filling the house with furniture, beginning with the most important part, creating several healing stations. I placed them on the second floor. Then I made 2 PCs and also put them on the second floor, where I'll keep everything related to Pokemon. I made improved chests out of iron, but I didn't have enough. I placed them on the first floor and then added frames to mark where and what type of items are stored. Went mining for iron, but my pickaxe broke. While I was making my way back up, a legendary Pokemon, Miloetta, appeared. I quickly found her and brought her health down to a minimum. After a long time and many Pokeballs used, I couldn't catch her because she defeated all my Pokemon, healed my team, and Miloetta attacked me on her own. I tried to catch her again, but this time I spent absolutely all of the Pokeballs I had, so I had to defeat the legendary Pokemon. Started sorting my items into chests because the chaos in my inventory and bag was really annoying me. I was annoyed by the glass with borders, so I downloaded a mod that adds new glass that looks much nicer without the frame. Unfortunately, it doesn't change the glass that's already placed, so I need to gather a lot of sand and redo all the windows in the house. Built an automatic furnace for smelting, but I didn't do it quite right since the number of blocks in width is odd. Sorted all my items into chests and cleared space in my backpack. I also added lighting inside the house, started changing the windows, and with the new glass, everything looks much prettier. Now this is one of my favorite mods for the game. And finally, I'm glad to present to you what I spent a couple of a dozen days on. My house is finally ready. I also quickly finished the sugarcane farm. It was already done, and I just added a bit of decor and atmosphere. Saw a large boss Beedrill and decided to try to defeat it. To my surprise, Aggron took it down with one hit, and I received several interesting and unknown items. I was also given a choice of some items, but I didn't know what they were and picked something, though it seemed I didn't notice any changes anywhere. Used an XL-sized experience candy, and Hatrim received a whopping 30,000 experience. One of the interesting items was Beedrillite, which could turn my Beedrill into a very powerful Mega Beedrill. I'll have to find a way to catch it later. Next, I wanted to take care of food and make a wheat and carrot farm, so I started clearing the landscape in front of the house. Another boss Beedrill appeared, but this time it was weaker, and of course the reward was less valuable as well. Planted all the wheat I had, and I will deal with the decor of this farm a bit later. Made another portable computer to switch Pokemon during my adventures. I kept only 2 Pokemon in my team and turned on experience sharing so I could go to the village, to the trainers, and finally get the last evolution for Hatrim. But when she reached the needed level, she died during the battle, and the evolution didn't happen. The next time everything went smoothly, and she finally got her final form. Now she looks quite cute, but that doesn't make her strong in battle. Brought everyone back into the team and went hunting for deer meat. I collected the yellow and black berries that I planted recently in front of the house and tossed them into the furnace to make Ultra Balls. In the meantime, I bought a few balls at the store. Noticed that the furnaces weren't smelting anything, and it turned out that I was out of coal. So I headed to the mine for coal and iron, which I also needed. Ran around the ice spikes biome a bit, but there wasn't anything particularly interesting here. During a battle, a legendary Entei appeared. Easily found it, but of course there was no point in trying to catch it since I barely had any balls. So I defeated it, hoping to get some rare items, but unfortunately I was out of luck. Gathered more apricorns and threw them into the furnace. Gathered more harvest from the trees and tossed them into the furnace. While collecting leather, I got a bell from a mill tank. I hung it above the house. While I waited for the apricorns to smelt, I decided to build a basement where I would place the enchanting table and maybe a portal to the nether. A legendary Pokemon, Zacian, spawned, but I had no balls. I took the cooked apricorns and made the top part of Ultra Balls from them. Then I crafted the bottom part from aluminum, and when I tried to make the balls, I was disappointed because the bottom part for Ultra Balls needed to be made from another material. Made the bottom part from iron and was disappointed again. It turned out I needed platinum to to make the specific bottom part required for crafting Ultra Balls, and I had very little platinum. Nevertheless, I created as many balls as I could and found Zacian. As I brought its health down to the red line, it almost killed 3 of my Pokemon. I didn't believe I would be able to catch it because I only had 1 Pokemon left, but then a miracle happened. Using just 5 Ultra Balls, I managed to catch the level 70 legendary Pokemon. It was holding an item called Rusted Sword, the meaning of which I didn't quite understand. To build the basement, I needed a lot of stone bricks, so I went to gather many stacks of cobblestone. The basement will be small, but I plan to make it beautiful and fit everything I need inside. A Venusaur boss appeared near me, and I tried to defeat it, but I failed on the first attempt. On the second attempt, it killed my entire team. On the third try, I was defeated again and saw no point in trying to kill it anymore. Made an enchanting table and several bookshelves, but I would need to craft a few more in the future. I plan to place the enchanting table in the center of the basement, recessed by 1 block, so it looks much nicer. Saw another boss. This time it was Slowbro, from which I obtained Slowbro Knight. While I was returning from the forest where I chopped wood, a legendary Tornadus appeared. I searched for it for a long time, but couldn't find it, so I decided to abandon the search, kill some raid boss instead. The boss was a 5-star one. Turned out to be that same Tornadus, and I didn't even know that was possible. To my surprise, I managed to defeat it and received many items, but nothing particularly interesting, which was strange. Of course, I tried to catch it, but without a Master Ball, it was unlikely to succeed. Finished the room in the basement, that is, the walls, ceiling, and floor, and now I need to add some decor and more bookshelves. I also installed some lighting in the basement, making it a bit more pleasant to be in. Spent a long time running around the base, gathering leather, as I needed quite a bit. Finally, I completed all the bookshelves to have the ability to enchant tools at the maximum level, and now it was time to review the basement, which would be further developed in the future. Now I need to spend a few days in the caves to gather a lot of iron and platinum to make Ultra Balls, but right now, I wanted to run around a bit and train my Pokemon. Ran around the world a bit, defeating high-level Pokemon, defeated a 4-star raid boss, and received netherite scrap as a reward. Kept only Cosmog and Zacian in my team and activated experience sharing. Headed to the trainer's arena, and within a few minutes I leveled up both Pokemon several times. Shortly after, Cosmog finally started to evolve. However, despite its new form and high level, it still couldn't battle because it didn't know any attacks. There wasn't much to do here, and I needed to set off on a journey. But first, I needed to stock up on balls. To do that, I needed to mine for platinum to make Ultra Balls, which meant I was off to the caves. For now, I gathered everything I saw, but I knew that would get tedious later. Found a large cave that contained a mine shaft filled with pesky cave spiders. They kept attacking me, preventing me from exploring the mine shaft properly. Encountered a level 73 Sableye and decided to try to defeat it. I managed to do so quite easily, but I only received 1 piece of coal as a reward. As I was wandering through the mine shaft, I found diamonds, but a pesky spider wouldn't let me mine them. There were only 4 diamonds in that vein. Also found a chest filled with various items. It turns out that Galvantula drops wide lens, so I plan to collect a few more of those during this trip. I was so fed up with the spiders that I decided to destroy their spawner. It was unbearable to do anything around them since they would attack even through walls. I did manage to break it, but there were still plenty of spiders around. Found another chest filled with an even greater variety of items. Also discovered a spawner for a large Pokemon that I had encountered before. The chests didn't have anything special, but from Garbodor I got some leftovers. Ran around and gathered more ore, but then I returned to the spawner to collect some mossy cobblestone. It might come in handy for building someday. It was about time to leave the mine, but wanted to find a few more diamonds. Started digging a tunnel at a low depth, but instead of diamonds, stumbled upon another cave. Turned out to be the very canyon I had been in before. Maybe it was a sign that I should head back to the surface, but I was determined and continued digging the tunnel. Eventually I was right, and I found some diamonds. There were 6 of them in this vein. Since I was so lucky, I wanted to find a few more diamonds, but I ended up in a new cave. Here I only found the demise of my pickaxe. In this cave, there was another mine shaft, which meant another long journey through the labyrinth. Nearly died in lava, but food helped me recover my health. Found another spawner with a giant spider, but the chests didn't have anything special. Discovered yet another chest. There were several in this mine shaft, and I would find more later, but none contained anything particularly interesting. Gathered a bit more ore, but of course, there were no diamonds to be found anywhere. Now I really think it's time to head outside. I was already looking for a way to the surface when I stumbled upon a vein of diamonds. There were 4 of them here. A minute later, I found another diamond nearby. I thought I was starting to get lucky and decided to explore the mine a bit more, but I didn't find anything else. As a last hurrah, I killed a Sebleye and collected a bit more coal since I needed to smelt a lot of different ores. Couldn't find a direct way to the surface, so I started digging a tunnel upward, and after a couple of minutes, I was free. Finally made it home, and I hope I won't have to go back into the mines for the rest of this survival. Immediately sorted all the ores into furnaces and started organizing my items in the chests. Went to sell some items, and one of them was worth a whopping 35,000. Crafted a diamond pickaxe and enchanted it with some really good stats. It's a shame I don't plan to go mining anymore. While the ores were smelting, I went to gather obsidian for the nether portal and the fossil machine. As I mentioned, I made the nether portal in the basement, but I'll go there later. The fossil machine is needed to obtain an ancient Pokémon from fossils. However, the fossil first needs to be cleaned, which requires a fossil cleaner as well. Placed these 2 machines on the 2nd floor and started the cleaning process for the first fossil. After that, I put the cleaned fossil into the fossil machine and the DNA extraction process began. I also had to place any Pokeball in the machine so that the ancient Pokémon would catch right away. Once everything was ready, the Pokémon was sent to my PC. It was an Aerodactyl, which I could ride, but I didn't plan to train it. Finally made a whole bunch of Ultra Balls, and now I was ready to embark on a journey. Put the Drake fossil into the machine, but the interface was flickering and no process was happening. It turned out I also needed a bird fossil or a fish fossil to combine them, but I didn't have any. Crafted a diamond axe and shovel, and I enchanted them, but this time I didn't get lucky with the effects. The second ancient Pokemon was Kabuto, which also didn't interest me. Finally, I set out to explore the world. As I hadn't encountered anything new in a while, found an underwater temple shortly after takeoff. To avoid any risks, I decided not to go there for now. Instead, I placed a marker and would return later. Encountered a 5-star raid boss and managed to defeat it. Among the rewards, the most interesting item was a diamond. Found a large ruined portal to the nether, but there was no chest nearby. Then saw a sunken submarine in the water. It looked abandoned, so I took the items from its chest. After that, found another little sunken ship. Right next to it in the water, I spotted a sunken ship. In the first chest, there was a diamond. In the second, a map. In the third chest, I found a relic. Within a few minutes, I located a treasure spot, and inside the chest was another diamond and a heart of the sea. Saw some kind of castle and flew closer. There was no one in the house. The castle was also empty, which meant it was abandoned, and I could take items from there. In the first tower, I found a valuable ancient relic, and I also took some other items with me. In the second tower, I grabbed a brewing stand and some books to read for the evening. The other 2 towers were devoid of items or anything useful. Found a few more things downstairs and walked through the houses gathering items. Then I found a chest near the ruined portal at the bottom of the sea. Discovered a master ball. After that, I decided to explore the desert. Nearby, there was a savanna and a village. I bought some good moves for my Pokemon and sold all my items, earning a lot of money. Found a temple in the desert and took everything from the chests. Encountered the legendary boss Camerupt, but I couldn't defeat him. Saw a beautiful Pokemon that resembled an ostrich. There were many Master Balls in the desert, but nothing useful came from them. Took items from a pillager tower, mounted Zacian, and set off to look for something interesting. Came across another village in the desert. I sold a bunch of junk and bought several Ultra Balls. Found another desert temple where I discovered a book with Efficiency 5 enchantment. Bought various items from the shop to check what they were for. Also purchased another powerful ice-type move. Found another Master Ball, but I didn't get anything useful from it. I got tired of running around the savannah, so I decided to fly further away. Bought some food for my Pokemon and fed it to Cosmoem, but he only gained 200 experience. Saw a beautiful building in a forest town and went inside. It turned out to be a grass gym. Of course, there were high-level trainers here, and I had no business being there. Then I found a camp of bandits or hermits that I had discovered at the beginning of the game, and gathered items from their chests again, as well as fought them a little. In the main building, there was a rare boss and a trophy. I thought I could defeat the main trainer, but I was sorely mistaken. Next, saw a huge tower, which was also a challenge with many strong Pokemon trainers. Found a green boss, but my Zacian was dead. Fortunately, Agron managed to handle that rodent by himself. Since my Charizard fell into a coma during the battle, I couldn't fly out of there, and I didn't have any beds or wool with me. So my only option was to look for a village and a healing center. Found another Master Ball, and finally, I got what I had been searching for all this time. An item that allows Pokemon that didn't participate in battles to gain experience. Now I could level up Cosmo M faster. Defeated a 4-star raid boss and received a decent reward. Figured out how to revive the dragon using a revive. Found a village, but it turned out to be another grass gym. I quickly located a place to heal my Pokemon, but there was nowhere to sell my junk. Even though I had run through the entire village and somehow missed the shop, I was eager to return home because I was tired of traveling and my backpack and inventory were filled to the brim. Defeated another strong raid boss. Finally, I was near my home, but first, I went to sell all the junk from my pockets. Then tested the Accept share, and it made training even the weakest Pokemon much easier. Then began my least favorite activity, sorting through a mountain of items in my chests. After that, I placed down the tables and other items I had taken from the castle. Obtained another ancient Pokemon from the fossil machine, and it was once again Kabuto. A legendary Pokemon, Enamorus, appeared. While I was searching for it, I saw a boss and quickly defeated it. After that, I ran around the field for a long time looking for the legend, but couldn't find it. Another ancient Pokemon, Lileep, was sent to my PC. Finally decided to venture into the Nether, creating several golden apples first. The first thing I saw was a bastion, and I headed there. I was very afraid of this location because in my previous survival runs, I often died there, either burning in lava or falling from great heights. Found the first chest, then a second chest, yet another chest, and then I found the fourth chest, followed by the fifth chest. Finally, I had a hard time finding my way to a large chest near a small chest. Defeated a Sableye boss in one hit. Placed a beacon near the portal so I wouldn't get lost and could easily find my way back when I wanted to leave. Wandered through the hellish forests, found nothing interesting, and I was ready to go home when I spotted another bastion. Here, I immediately found the path to the most valuable reward and saw a boss and a raid boss on the horizon, so I headed towards them. Killed Magmar without any trouble, but the raid boss turned out to be a dud. Then I mined a lot of gold blocks and found just one chest. It was time to return home. Once again, I had to suffer sorting through tons of junk that I would never need, but I was reluctant to throw it away. I had enough resources to make one netherite ingot. I used it to upgrade my pickaxe, also placed an anvil just in case I would need it someday. Now it was time to seriously train my Pokemon. I flew to the fire gym and attacked the bosses to gain a lot of experience from defeating them, but unfortunately, I wasn't the one coming out victorious from the battles. Saw a guy who once gave me a quest to go to the Nether and report back to him. As a reward, he gave me 10 blaze rods. Even though I didn't completely defeat the trainer, I managed to kill several Pokemon, which helped me level up Cosmo M. Something unexpected happened. He began to evolve. Since he started changing at night, he transformed into Lunala, even though I wanted him to become Solgaleo. Unfortunately, I couldn't cancel the evolution in time, and now I have Lunala, but not Solgaleo. Nonetheless, this Pokemon finally learned its first attack, and it was quite powerful. I couldn't run around the village because I was constantly attacked by strong Pokemon trainers that I couldn't defeat. Returned home and started trying out Lunala in battles, but because of her ghost-type attack, I couldn't hit the normal-type Pokemon around me, of which there were many. Plus, that attack only had 5 charges. Checked all the attacks I had in my chests, but Lunala didn't want to learn anything. Then I had to train Lunala up to level 56 using Zacian because, according to information I found online, that's the level at which Lunala learns a new attack. After a little while, I finally got a new attack, Moonblast. Now, Lunala can truly hold her own, but unfortunately, I can't just defeat everyone. I encountered the legendary boss Tarantula, and to make it even better, he was a shiny Pokemon. This is a big rarity, and despite being level 120, killed him with one hit, but received quite a poor reward. Decided to embark on a journey in the other direction and immediately came across an interesting tower and a Pokestop. Nearby, I saw a beautiful lake surrounded by sand. It would be a great spot to create a camp base. If a second part of this survival comes out, maybe I can build something here. And if you want to see 200 days of survival in a world with Pokemon, let me know in the comments. In one of the villages, I encountered an epic boss, but after spending 3 attempts, I couldn't defeat him. Then I had a bit of a battle with trainers, and I haven't mentioned this before, but I have a goal to level up one of my Pokemon to level 100, and I want to make Lunala the strongest, but I probably won't have time to do it. While running around the savannah, Raikou appeared. I quickly whittled his health down to 4%. After a few Ultra Balls, I caught another legendary Pokemon, although I wasn't particularly interested in Raikou because he's an old Pokemon that I know well. Then saw some kind of structure. It turned out to be an altar for summoning one of the legendary birds, Zapdos. However, to summon it, I first need to find a sphere and fill it with several hundred souls of defeated Pokemon. It turned out that Raikou doesn't have any normal attacks, which is why it was so easy for me to defeat him. On my way, I saw a Master Ball lying under a tree, and I got that very Master Ball that catches any Pokemon on the first try. I will keep it for a unique occasion. In the village I ran to, there was no healing center, so I lay down to sleep to recover my team. In the desert, I found a shiny Trapinch. I attacked it with my weakest Pokemon, but unfortunately, I ended up killing it with one hit. Then I encountered a legendary boss that glowed like a shiny Pokemon, and now I have doubts about whether bosses can be shiny Pokemon. Maybe legendary bosses just look that way. Nevertheless, I killed him with one hit and received some decent items, one of which was a Nether Star. Used a large experience candy, and Lunala reached level 63, allowing him to learn a new strong attack. In the distance, I saw some kind of structure. I approached it and found several chests with items that weren't particularly useful to me. Saw a portal that leads to the Pokemon world. I'd encountered it before, but I didn't have time to jump in. This time, however, I was ready. I started building a pillar to the portal, but when it was time to jump in, it just disappeared. In the village, I bought a very useful attack that ensures the Pokemon is left with 1 health point, making it easier for me to catch them. I had Zacian learn this attack, spent a lot of time in the village defeating all the trainers, which leveled up Lunala several times. I was running low on food, so I decided to fly home. On the way, I encountered a temple in the desert and found the altar for summoning Zapdos again, so I decided to mark this location to come back if needed. While flying home, I defeated several raid bosses, one of which dropped netherite scrap. In one chest, I was able to smelt 3 pieces, so I threw the blocks into the furnace and started sorting my items into chests. Then crafted a netherite and diamond chest plate, combined them, and got a netherite chest plate, and of course, I immediately enchanted it, gathered enough food, and now I could set off on another journey, but this time on foot, to find a portal to the Pokemon world. Headed toward the snowy biome because I hadn't been there yet and spotted a Christmas tree in the distance. Underneath it was a chest with 4 experience candies and some Pokeballs. When I ran a little farther and turned back, I saw the portal, which I rushed to, built a tower to the portal and jumped in, but the first jump was unsuccessful and I didn't need to make a second because the portal disappeared again. Noticed an interesting Pokemon on the map. It turned out to be a penguin with an ice cube on its head. After a few minutes, saw another portal and began building a pillar of dirt to it, and I jumped in. A few seconds later, I found myself in another world and was immediately surprised by the gravity, which felt like I was on the moon. There were a lot of Pokemon here that kept attacking me, and they were of a very high level. Raid bosses were everywhere as well. I defeated one and received a cool reward. Attacked a boss, but it turned out to be a Trojan horse because 5 high-level Pokemon faced me at once. I was really surprised and just ran away from the battle. Saw a black Dragonite at level 100 and attacked it, planning to catch it in a Master Ball, but it was another Trojan horse. So I fled, decided to break blocks on a suspicious structure, and I was struck by lightning, which also paralyzed my Pokemon, so there was definitely something there. I broke a second block, got hit by lightning again, and saw ancient debris in the center, which I, of course, mined. Strange Pokeballs were scattered everywhere, and they dropped various items. Defeated a 5-star raid boss. I used ice cream to heal several Pokemon from paralysis, decided to climb an obsidian tower, and at that moment, Solgaleo spawned in some desert that was not near me. There were crystals on the tower that I couldn't mine. I jumped to another tower where there was a chest, and it had some decent items. Then I finally found the desert, and it was much nicer to run around because it was bright here. Accidentally touched a purple cactus, which poisoned me and my entire team, leading to some serious consequences later. Lunala leveled up, and he learned a new strong attack. Then I decided to try to defeat 5 Pokemon at once, and I could have done it if it weren't for that damn poisoning. In the end, there was one last Pokemon left for both me and my opponent, and I decided to run from the battle to revive my Pokemon. However, due to the poisoning, my last Pokemon died, and I was automatically transported back to my world. Found myself far from home in the village where I last stayed overnight. At first, it felt strange to run with normal gravity. The moon was somehow more interesting. Sold all my items and headed to a neighboring village to heal my Pokemon. At home, I sorted all my things. I planned to go back to the Pokemon world, and this time, stocked up on various items for healing and reviving Pokemon. Couldn't run far because a boss killed my entire team, so I returned home and healed them. Spent a long time searching for a portal, but only found a forest of Christmas candy, and it was not just by chance. Then I found a map in a sunken ship. The treasure was nearby, and I quickly found it. After that, I bought a lot of healing supplies in the village and set off again. After a long time, I still hadn't found the portal, but did find the biome I had been looking for since the beginning of the game, the Badlands. Here, I found a village, or rather a town, with a mine underneath it that I really didn't want to explore. This town was probably a ground gym where trainers had Pokemon of unreal high levels, stocked up on some more health-restoring items, and continued searching for the portal. Found a Pokemon that looked like a vacuum cleaner. After some more time, I still hadn't found the portal, and I was already tired of intentionally searching for it, so I decided it was better to focus on my own tasks. Returned home and sorted my items once again. Then I gathered all the rare candies to see how many I had, and I had as many as 35, which means 35 levels. This also means I could now level up Lunala to level 100, started giving candies to my Pokemon, and after a few minutes, I achieved the main goal of this survival, which was to get a Pokemon at the maximum level, level 100. Wanted to see Lunala in action, but I got put to sleep. Nevertheless, I still won. I had the opportunity to make new pants. First, I crafted diamond leggings, and now I crafted netherite leggings, and of course, I enchanted them right away. Also taught Raikou a new attack since he was too weak and useless. While waiting for the portal to appear, I remembered that I wanted to create a Mega Pokemon and decided to go catch Beedrill. Spent quite a bit of time looking for such a common Pokemon, but eventually I caught a Weedle with my first Ultra Ball, immediately evolved it into Kakuna. Then at home, I took the Beedrillite and gave it to Kakuna. When I evolved the Pokemon into Beedrill, nothing happened at first, but then I attacked the nearest Pokemon, and in the attack interface, there was a new button that turned a regular Pokemon into its Mega version. Unfortunately, this Mega version only lasts during battle. After that, the Pokemon returns to its normal form. Furthermore, only one Pokemon on the team can have a Mega form in a single battle. I arrived in the city with the fire gym because I believed in my victory, but there were Pokemon at level 140 here. Considering that each trainer seemed to have 6 Pokemon, I thought it was unrealistic to defeat 6 Pokemon at level 140, even if my entire team was at maximum level. I couldn't even manage to attack. Instead, I was getting killed in one hit, which was starting to frustrate me because the Tower of Trials was generated incorrectly, and in another building I climbed to the top floor from above where there was an attacking trainer. I added a few attacks to Raikou, but didn't take any items from the chests. After half a day, I found a city in the snowy biome, and it was probably the ice gym. And yes, I was right. I decided to fight some ordinary bosses, and to my surprise, my Lunala couldn't even defeat a single Pokemon of the same level as itself. I was very disappointed with this Pokemon. I would have preferred to level up Zacian to 100 instead. Fought some trainers in the village, which helped level up Larvesta and Zacian. After some time, a portal finally appeared. I decided not to build a pillar to it and just fly in on my Pokemon, which I managed to do. A few seconds later, I was back in a world with gravity like on the moon, but this time I was in a different biome. Nearby was the Ultra Forest biome, and at one point I bumped into a plant that put my entire team to sleep. I had to use potions to wake all my Pokemon up. I caught another Larvesta of a higher level to evolve it faster. Decided to break a few iron blocks, but the game punished me for that, and out of fear of dying, I started eating a golden apple. And at that very moment, a Pokémon attacked me. Fortunately, everything was fine after the battle, and I made a note to myself not to take valuable resources from this world. A few minutes later, I leveled Larvesta up to evolve. Volcarona is a strong Pokémon with the Quiver Dance attack, which boosts some of its stats. Then I climbed into some pipe where there was a door leading to a Pokeball, from which I got a Beast Ball. After that, I jumped into a well, and I started being pulled down, taking damage, but when I reached the chest, I was able to swim back up. I returned to the chest and took the items from it, repeated this trick once more. Solgaleo appeared in the desert. I found the desert, but I couldn't find the Pokemon. Then I remembered it might be a raid boss, and I quickly found it. Fortunately, I couldn't defeat it because I had no strong attacks left, and my team of dumb bots couldn't do anything. Then I went into a new biome, Ultra Jungle, and immediately put my entire team to sleep, which was starting to frustrate me. Saw a level 100 Archeops and decided to catch it. Thanks to the false swipe attack, I reduced its health to a minimum and was able to catch it with one ball. Now I have 2 Pokemon at level 100 in my team. Another legendary Pokemon, Lunala, appeared. I found it quickly and, to my surprise, was able to defeat it. I had a choice to use my Master Ball or just let it go, since I wouldn't be able to catch it with regular balls. In the end, I decided to catch another Lunala. However, it had a low level and poor nature. The last day of survival was approaching, and I wanted to spend it in my world near my house. Right after this thought, a portal appeared. I tried to jump into it, but it didn't work. Then I tried to fly into it, but controlling the Pokemon was very stiff, and I couldn't make it. A minute later, the portal disappeared. That meant I would have to defeat my entire team. Bisharp partially helped with that, but I accidentally killed it. Then I found a Trojan horse, which brought me back home. I immediately noticed that I had lost all my levels and experience, but I knew they would return later. Decided to try to get the water badge from the water gym one last time. Of course, I failed, which was very disappointing. Saw a shiny Pokemon in the sky and ran after it, but it disappeared almost immediately. The 100th day is coming to an end as dawn approaches, so it's time to take stock. Over these 100 days, I achieved a lot. I have several legendary Pokemon, a couple of them even in pairs. I have 2 max level Pokemon. I caught the second one already at that level, but I trained the first one from scratch myself. I built a beautiful house, although it took me a few dozen days, and I also made a somewhat nice yard in front of it. There's still a lot of work to be done. So many things to build, decorate, or improve, but I didn't want to spend more time on that. But to be honest, I didn't accomplish as much as I could have. In these 100 days, I could have at least earned a badge from winning at a gym, but this annoying mechanic that levels up trainers along with me ruined it, taking away the point and motivation to train my team. So there's still a lot of work to do in this world. If you want to see the continuation, 200 days with Pokemon in Minecraft, let me know in the comments.